Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Night. I am your host, Brian Smith, and my co-host here with me once again is Andrew Johnson. Tell you what, this is where I get to have some fun. I get to talk about things that I enjoy. With the transfer portal and everything, I'm putting off the position group things until at least a few more weeks because UCF's probably going to add a couple more kids, got some recruits going. But that doesn't mean we can't discuss other teams that UCF is going to play next year. And the one that I find most intriguing for multiple reasons is Louisville. Obviously, the game was very contested last year, all the injuries, a million things we could talk about just with the 2021 game, which was a great game. But there's also the fact that Louisville will play UCF on the 10th of September. It'll probably be the second game. We expect South Carolina State to be named the first, but that'll take care of itself. But here's a chance to play, Andrew, a team that has a outside the realm Heisman contender in Malik Cunningham. He's up and down. We'll talk about that in a minute. A team that's got some transfers. It's a Power 5 team. You're at home. It's going to be on national TV.
Right.
UCF has said they want all the smoke. They want to be on TV. They want to be in front of people.
Yeah.
Here's your chance.
Yeah.
Opening thoughts about Louisville.
And just kind of what we talked about off air, heading into that Louisville game last season, UCF had a lot of momentum. They were 2-0. They had just came back against Boise State in the season opener. Mm-hmm. And you had Dylan Gabriel going up against Malik Cunningham and his first Power 5 opponent. So that was a big game as well. And we could talk about some of the injuries that happened. But that loss kind of, steamrolled UCF and, kind of was a detriment to the season. So that's my opening statement with that. But, yeah, it's going to be a competitive game for next season.
From what I was told, they had to, should I go pro? Should I not? The Louisville coaching staff, just like with UCF and Isaiah Bowser, had to recruit him in a sense. But was he a polished player that was going to be, quote unquote, drafted? I doubt it. I'm not a scout for the NFL, and I didn't go over 150 reps of his or more, which NFL scouts would probably go through literally every one of his passes. Yeah. It's a grueling job. Be careful what you ask for. But he's got a cannon.
Yeah.
He has the athleticism to play running back, receiver, corner, or safety. And we said going into that game last year, if you let him get outside the pocket, it's not going to end well. What did he do?
Exactly. And we're not saying he's a Lamar Jackson, but, hey, if he gets outside, he's gone.
Yeah. That is a dude when he gets the cleats outside the tackle box. It's not a good time. No linebacker is going to consistently hang with him. And they failed in a lot of ways there. But part of it's just Malik did a good job and a good coaching job by Louisville. This next year, you have all the following factors. Revenge, first home game that matters. No offense to South Carolina State, if we are correct, and that's who the Knights play. If they don't beat South Carolina State bad, everything else we're going to talk about on this show is completely mute.
We'll be back on to talk about that because that'll be –
yeah, because then the program's in the shambles. So there's not with this roster. They should beat South Carolina State by 17 points if they play poorly. Yeah. But anyway, back to Louisville. You got revenge. You have the opportunity to go against a lot of good players. They got some transfers coming in. And then most of all, this is your – how many times are you going to get Power 5 schools?
You got a chance to set the tone is what you got, man.
And, I'm one of those guys that believes that when you have an opportunity like this, as you said, setting the tone is important. But it's against a guy a lot of people on ESPN and ACC Network and all. They're going to be talking about him.
NFL scouts, they're going to be there.
Oh, yeah. You have a chance to make waves. And I guarantee you, as I'm definitely a recruiting guy, they will get as many young men, parents, coaches, etc., to come from the high school ranks to be at this game to see what we can do against this school. But the year before we jump into the Big 12.
Yeah, that's going to be so important, paramount. So can we look at some of the Malik Cunningham's numbers to see exactly?
This is exactly what this is passing numbers. I'll go to running second. He's one of the few guys that's important. But this is a game by game look at what Malik did with just the ability to throw. Now Malik is not necessarily a great passer in these stats. If you look at the bottom of the screen here, the last handful of games, for whatever reason. Here, down at the bottom, he was throwing the ball much more accurately. But if you look at this game, the North Carolina State game, I'm sure he would like to forget. And the quarterback meeting the day after, you cannot throw in major college football 37.9%. If you consider it a good – that's That's off the
terrible. That's simply terrible.
Now, to that point, I remember last year doing like preseason predictions. I thought North Carolina State would be a team that would be a dark horse in the league, and they were pretty good. They got a quarterback. Yeah. They've got a quarterback that's got NFL aspirations. Yeah. Leary, he's legit. But their defensive coaching staff, et cetera, is good. And if you don't come with the right mentality against them, they get pressure on the quarterback. They got DB, and they just got in his head.
Yeah.
Even though they're good, you're not going to throw 37.9 unless something was going wrong here on that day. You lost your confidence. But what was interesting, the next week he had to play Clemson.
Yeah.
That's not exactly a good time.
Nah.
Arguably my favorite player to watch in college football for this next year is Miles Murphy, the D end at Clemson. Holy cow, is he good. Facing him and their DBs is not fun. Barely over 50%. So you think this guy's about to go in the tank.
Those blitz schemes are crazy over there.
Oh, yeah, Clemson. Now, that guy finally left and got a head coach in Oklahoma.
Whew.
But he can coach. Yeah. They just tore him up. And I'm thinking at this point, looking at the numbers, he's about to fall off the cliff. But they actually went way up.
Yeah.
Something happened, and I don't know what Louisville did. But
you think that was a scheming thing? Did they, make it easier for him? 5-yard passes, slant routes?
I would imagine. And just at the end of the day, look, Clemson recruits at a level that Syracuse only aspires to and will not obtain. But being stated as much, Syracuse, he smoked them, 219 yards and 4 touchdowns. After 2 weeks in a row, just trash. Part of it against talent, but he didn't play up to his ability either. So that tells me he's grown mentally and he's matured.
They dominated Syracuse that game, put up 41 too. So
yeah, Syracuse wasn't very good last year. They should have, but again, coming off 2 really subpar performances.
Right. He needed that bounce back game.
Absolutely. And then he goes and he completes the task. They play at Duke the next week, and Duke got hammered. That was probably about the point where Duke's coaching staff was done. You can't lose by 40 at home. No offense. And there it is again, 72%. 5 touchdowns, no interception.
I think, and if you go back, I think that was his best game. Because the rushing numbers were crazy as well. And that's why he's an X factor.
Yeah, and I'll throw those up in a second. Now, here's the weird part. I've said this for 2 or 3 years. The head coach at Kentucky, who was at one point a coordinator, I believe he was at Georgia, but he was at Florida State, et cetera. I thought he should have got the Florida State head job. He's who I would have hired. That's their rival. They played them at home and got blitzkrieged. So he's a kid that's doing this. Kentucky's really good. Their scheme is great. They're coached well. But at home against your rival, you cannot lose by 31.
That's when you have to perform. Everyone's there in the city.
So what in the world am I to make of Malik Cunningham? Well, here's my simple one phrase fits all kind of answer. We'll know when he plays next year.
There you go.
It's not a matter of physical talent because he's got a cannon. Yeah. He's shown in a 2-game stretch that he can go 9 touchdowns and no interceptions, but he's also shown that he can complete 37.9% of his passes. It's just bizarre. He is, and he'll be on the Vegas big board for the Heisman. That's one of the things. Vegas makes a lot of money. And he's a guy that, he's going to get some votes because his number will be like 150 to 1. Yep. People are going to throw money at that. When UCF hosts them, now game day is not going to come here for Louisville. I'm not stupid, but it's going to be on ESPN. I just not guarantee, or ABC, it'll be one or the other. If they get him and they beat up on him, they sack him, and he has like a 53% game, not only do you win, which is always the goal, UCF is looking for a spark as a program.
Yeah, we need that.
Heading into the Big 12. Again, this is the last year for the Atlantic or the American Athletic Conference. You're going from, decent football to really good in 1 year. Yeah. Gus has talked about that a lot. This is your barometer because this, from an athletic standpoint, you're not going to play against a more athletic quarterback.
No.
Again, he's got a cannon. If you don't get in his head early, he's capable of producing a 400-yard overall game running and passing. And to that end,
I think what you're about to pull up right now is why he's a difference maker to the next level. Because once he gets those feet going, he can extend those plays and they can be ugly.
Yeah, if you look at Cunningham as a rusher, his game log,
almost 300 rushing yards against Duke.
Yeah, he's crazy. It's insane. No offense to Duke.
Oh yeah.
At that point, the player. You could see it with body language on the field. By the midpoint of last season, they were just done.
Yeah.
And the head coach is a great guy. He's a Hall of Fame. He's the guy that coached Manning at Tennessee and all this stuff. It was over. And when they saw that kid come on the field, they didn't care. And if you take him for granted, you get smoked. 224 yards rushing by a quarterback? That's just dumb.
With 5
high school.
Yeah, with 5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, and he had 2 rush. I mean, that is, you could make the argument that was the best game by a player in college football last year.
That's a high performance. If he can replicate that,
he goes up, he goes down. I mean, he's a weird deal to figure out.
Inconsistent.
But at the same time, what is he going to do? And this is my concern, because I'm a glass half empty guy. I openly admit that. He came back for a 5th year. He could have at least tried to make a roster. And somebody would have taken him as like that 3rd guy on the emergency. He's a freak. Somebody's going to take it. And his arm, again, he can zing it. Somebody's going to think, I can make him special. And it's possible. Somebody
was in his ear.
He gave that up after they had a craptastic season. I mean, quite frankly, they only won 3, 4.
They went 6 and 7, I think.
Yeah, with him at quarterback, with that much talent that he has, a good young running back, etc., they only won 6 games. It'd have been easy for him to say, screw you guys, even if I am coming back to college football. Yeah, think about him in an offense that needs a quarterback. Like, if you put him on one of those teams that's 8-4, 9-3 that was just missing the final, they might make a run at the play. Put him at Iowa or something like that, a team that's really good but missing a quarterback. My God. But now he's back at Louisville. So did he buy in?
Yeah.
And if he did, and we see more of the Duke variety, not necessarily those numbers are crazy. It'll probably be the best game he ever plays.
Right.
But if he puts up 250 and runs for 75 against UCF, that ain't good either. So they have to figure out a way to beat him. And that's the crux of this show. Like, most people probably don't even know UCF that he's coming back for a 5th year. This is the 5th year he's playing. At the end of the day, that's a lot of experience. And to put it into context, Kenny Pickett, who was in the Heisman finalist group as a junior and senior before he was a 5th year guy at Pitt last year, was 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, 2 years in a row. And then just on 3rd downs this is a crazy stat. He had more touchdowns passing this past year than he did his entire senior year or junior year on any down. The light frickin' went on. Sometimes got, that
extra year.
Now Kenny has an even stronger arm and all that.
Yeah.
But you see, that jump was just miraculous and great for Kenny Pickett. He's going to make a lot of money in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. But again, like you just said, 5th year. I'm concerned about that. Now I'm going to pull up a few more stats about Louisville in general, just to kind of give you an idea. A few of the players that got coming back. Because I think one of the kids, he played a lot against UCF, the running back, this Jalen Mitchell kid.
Jalen Mitchell, yeah. Great.
He's a good player, but he didn't play the last, I don't know, he's banged up exactly or whatever. He only had 100-yard game, but of course the game against UCF, he was consistent, had a touchdown. He was only a freshman last year. He's like 220 pounds. He's a downhill power back. He's the guy that sets up Cunningham.
Yep.
Most guys make their biggest leap from freshman to sophomore year. You're going to go through your first off season. You think you know how you've trained. Yeah. The guy in that weight room in there that's not very friendly at Louisville, he will let you know what it's like to train. And I've heard a gazillion stories from players, coaches, trainers about that. Some guys can't hack it because it's mentally taxing. It's similar to boot camp. It is not a good time. Horrific stories all the way back to the days like when Chuck Amato was at Florida State. Guys used to practically cry at Florida State, like literally. They had what they called mat drills at like 5:30 in the morning at Florida State. Every school has a little different variation of it. Doing ab work and stuff. You're tired, you're sleep. But if you don't do it, you have to do it again. The whole group does. If this kid buys in along with Cunningham, not only is this a very tough game for UCF, their running attack could be nasty. And they, for whatever reason, they're like top 10 in the country or whatever in first down rushing attempts. They really want to establish the run. I think this kid has NFL potential.
Yeah.
Big dude. He's kind of like Bowser. I don't think he's got the feet that Isaiah does. But in that mold,
I remember writing about him. I remember writing about him coming into that game. I was like, this guy's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, look, he plays in the Power 5 and he comes in as a freshman and he's their guy.
Yeah.
Even if they're pretty much a mid-level ACC team, fair enough. But for a freshman to be counted on to be the blocker for Malik, etc., means he was a little more astute. Let's give the young man some credit. And they had injuries and stuff too. I mean, UCF went through ridiculous amount. But Louisville had some problems, and he just got the rock, and he was consistent. I mean, he ran for 5 touchdowns and 722 yards as a freshman. I bet you he approaches 1,000 yards next year because they're going to want to keep Malik out of harm's way a little bit more. I would, at least. That's the other guy that I'm worried about.
They'll use him more.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you said, this game is going to be pivotal for UCF. They're coming into Orlando. And this will kind of be like their first glimpse. You want to look at the Big 12, well, here you go. So this is a Power 5 conference. People are going to be looking in. NFL scouts are going to be looking in. So it's time to make set the tone for the season, especially with this defense we got. Got a lot of guys returning. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to watch that game. See what Malik Cunningham can do against that defense.
This is the end of January. And everybody's going, man, you're crazy. You're talking about a game 8 months from now almost. You're right. But that's why football is special. In basketball, like you and I could call each other up and just talk like, hey, LeBron's playing at Philadelphia. That's going to be a great game, blah, blah. And it is, win or lose. But the NBA, the regular season's 82 games, plus there's you can completely throw a dud in there. LeBron can go 6 for 20, and he'll get bitched at on ESPN. But if he comes back 2 nights later against the Knicks and drops 31 and 10 assists, nobody cares.
Nobody cares, yeah.
In college football, if you, especially for UCF, this is a very unique scenario. They also have Georgia Tech, another Power 5 team coming here. This might be the only time in the last 10 years they've had 2 come here. I haven't looked that up. If you can win both of those, what it does in terms of personalities on TV, fair or not, it's just true. Kids, although they shouldn't, they will listen to what Stephen A. Smith says. Yeah. They will listen to what somebody like Brady Quinn says on Fox or whatever. If they like a coach, if they like a team, if they reward a team for a big win, it helps recruiting. It also helps the fan base believe you get more people to come out the game. They watch it too. Yeah.
Fan base.
If you come out and kick the snot out of Louisville and beat them 31-17,
man, no
middle. You know what I mean? I don't expect that. For the record, I think Louisville will be a 3 to 5 point favorite in Vegas, something like that, because they've got the better quarterback situation.
Yeah, you don't know the quarterback. Yeah, you don't know your quarterback.
I mean, we have no idea. Even after spring, I'm probably not going to have a great idea of what's going to happen at quarterback with UCF, and that's the way Gus Malzahn likes it. He is that guy. Yeah, he always plays more than one quarterback anyway. He's probably about the hardest guy to prepare for in college football, which is an advantage for an early season game. But we'll do a little bit with Louisville's defense later. Yeah. I just wanted to preview for people because I don't think many people knew Cunningham was coming back, and that running back is a guy. He was taken for granted. And I'll openly admit it. I'm like, man, they're starting a freshman against UC. They got a hell of a front,
Right.
And then, of course, injuries didn't help in that game, but he was, he kept delivering. He would 2-3 yards. He was what you needed to keep ahead of the chains, and he gave UCF fits in the second half. But there's one other player that I want to mention, and this one hurts. He had his quote-unquote breakout game against UCF, and he ended up being their leading receiver. It's not good. But you know what? This is what happens when you have busts in college football. Sometimes you have to just kind of accept it and that you didn't have a game. Well, this kid right here, I'll pull up all his stats and share the screen. Marshon is a good football player, kind of a hybrid tight end, and he murdered UCF. If you look at the game, he had 8 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. A freaking H-back/tight end. There was one play they threw to him like Malik was scrambling around. He threw it to him on the right. There was nobody within 15 yards of him. So he was only a sophomore last year, or no, junior. He's coming back.
Senior year.
Yeah, I mean, he only had 2 touchdowns, one against UCF.
Yeah.
But he led him with catches in 49. He is the safety valve. UCF is going to have Terrence Lewis out on the field. I'm calling it now. He's starting until somebody proves me wrong.
Better.
If they can't cover this guy that makes A, Cunningham more dangerous as a runner, and B, you got the big running back coming down your throat as well. If you're worried about the flat, they can be versatile. This could be, if Malik gets it up here all the way through, a team that drops 35 a game. I mean, they could be nasty.
And they got a couple other receivers as well.
Oh, yeah. I just like this guy because he's a versatile guy. They can throw play action. They can run RPO. He is a pain to deal with. He's got great hands.
And he had 100 yards on UCF last year.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, like if you look at their overall group.
That was his best game. That was his best game, actually.
I'll see. Let's see. What's their best play? I mean, he was by far. But here's the thing. Like they were really, really young. They had some injuries. Yeah. Their second leading receiver was a freshman last year.
Like you said, though, maybe Cunningham's seen this because he had the opportunity to come back and transfer, but maybe he's seen some of these guys and these key players that he can use to make them run in the ACC.
I'll just pull up their receiving stats. And if you look, this is weird.
They had a freshman. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Jordan Watkins. He was 35 catches, 15 and a half yards a pop. But then look at the next kid's numbers. 29 yards a catch. Wow. That's insane. The third guy, I mean, now he only caught 18 balls, but for the love of God, I mean, that just shows you what you can create with RPOs and having a mobile quarterback. Because a couple of those, he was the first guy out to practice. Somebody was a bust. But still, like literally, every now and then you just see the guy like, oh, God, if he sees him, it's over. You know, they obviously found him on those plays.
Yeah.
29 yards a pop. That's insane. By high school standards, I don't see that. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
And that kid right there, Amari Bruce, he's another one of those kids. You know, he had 29 receptions. He was another one that put in a lot of work that season. So they got guys on the offense. If you look
if you look at their group, their first 7 players by that list were underclassmen. You know what I mean? Like that's
all fresh. Yeah, they're young. They're really young.
I'm telling you, UCF has a chance, and it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. Hey.
But if they screw around or even this is why football is so unique. If you have one bust against the Harrell kid, you can strike up the band. He can pick them up and put them down. That's where the final thing that I'll talk about, and I'll let you kind of have your thing. UCF secondary, from the time they played Louisville to about the 6th or 7th game, was night and day. If that game was played, let's say, and UCF was healthy, that's the other part. If they'd have played them like game 8, I think UCF spanks Louisville.
Yeah, they finally start making turnovers and getting to the quarterback.
The defensive secondary was totally – I don't know what happened. It's still miraculous to me, and I know we've talked about it.
Yeah.
The light came on for that group. It was crazy. Even Brandon Adams, the freshman, was good. That's going to be one heck of a matchup because UCF's got length. They've got experience. They got speed. They have no excuse in the second. So – they're going to have some dudes line up across them. And some of these kids are South Florida or Georgia. They know some of these guys. They played against each other. It's going to be fun.
We'll see how determined UCF is coming to this game. Because like we said, this is a get-back game. It was a tough game last year. They lost a lot of guys. So we'll see how motivated they are and how, what this season will look like.
I don't ever like to predict the game like straight up down the line because I have zero.
We got a lot of minutes. We got spring. You got
and UCF is going to be one of the 5 to 10 most quote unquote active teams in the transfer portal from this point to August, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But again, that's why you and I aren't talking about position groups yet. I was thinking about doing a D-line thing the other day, and then Lee Hunter committed. How dumb would have I looked? I mean, he's got a chance to start. You know, I mean, I have to do UCF differently than I would do, say, a school like Northwestern who doesn't take many transfers. It's easy to do them. Wake Forest, Stanford. Yeah. Like they get 2 transfers a year. UCF gets 12. So for anybody curious, that's why we haven't done it. But here's the other point. UCF on offense, they're not going to have Malik Cunningham. They're just not. And I know John Reese Plumlee could be the savior and all that. There's a reason he moved to, I hate to, no nice way around this, to receiver. He can run fast, but he hadn't figured out quarterback. So maybe he works out, maybe he doesn't. There's a lot of questions. I need to see all that before I make any kind of predictions on the game, and I'm sure somebody will message me asking me to. I have no interest in that. I'm just saying, if you win against this team, because Louisville will be ranked in the top 4 or 5 teams somewhere in the ACC preseason polls, not that they mean much, But again, that's still hype. That's opportunity. That's ESPN. That's Fox, ACC Network, ABC, because it's tied in with the ESPN. You have a chance to beat a team and set a standard, then your recruiting class can go way up. Because I can tell you right now, just from the last few days, from making some phone calls, they are shooting for the moon in recruiting. The moon.
He's recruiting like his hair is on fire. That's what he said.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. Number one, if they don't get them now, they might get them in the portal later. That's what they did with Lee Hunter. That's what they did, some of these other kids. It's okay. They didn't get Terrence Lewis. They got him the second time. Are you getting the player in the long run? Because UCF's recruiting is very, very awkward compared to what me or any other recruiting analyst is used to. Winning this game will get you some other kids in the high school ranks, and then you can merge the two. Because, like, for teams that take a lot of transfers, UCF is on the same level, in my opinion, with Philly needs, et cetera, with a school like LSU. I wrote an article for the LSU site on Sports Illustrated earlier this morning, and, I mean, they recruit elite player. I mean, LSU's never been quote unquote void of talent, but they've taken a few transfers, and I'm kind of looking.
They're like,
UCF's got guys just like LSU does.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
LSU is in the top 5 right now for transfer portals.
Right. When have we realistically? When has UCF recruiting ever been quote unquote compared to LSU?
Yeah, come on, man.
I can answer that for you real quick with no research. Zero.
Never.
That has changed. Gus Malzahn has proven me wrong to a certain degree because I thought it would take to year 3, year 4, because I know they're invested in Gus and he's not going anywhere. Right. But he's turned it around in that really fast. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of schools just don't have a guy that's that dedicated. Like, for whatever reason, he is just really, really passionate about UCF, and he loves the school. He honestly does. You go to the press conferences too. He's different. Like, we talked to him before and after, and he's ready to roll, man. Like, he is like a 17-year-old going out to practice. He's just happy. Yeah, he believes in this place, and that's great. You have to have that. So
when he beat Florida too in the bowl game, I think that was such an important win for him in recruiting in the state of Florida. That definitely helped him in this offseason, because kids seen that and they're like, man, I'm giving UCF a chance. They're going to the Big 12. Why not? I'm a local kid. They were Group of 5 before, maybe turn them off a little bit. I may get a chance to go to the playoff in the Big 12. So Gus Malzahn has a lot to look forward to. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about their defense, but it's not as important as the offense for Louisville has a chance to kick some butt. I don't know much about their O-line. They need to get better, blah, 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 but that's position like quarterback. You got to wait to go through spring. I'm not even going to talk about them tomorrow. That's hard. O-line's very difficult to grade in the spring, especially before it. Yeah. But the things that we'll talk about, like, their head coach is under fire, flat out. But I was told, as a little teaser here, that every effort is being made to make sure that their head coach succeeds. And I don't know the background of that, but I do know one part. His contract, if they fire him, and this is how college football works in general, you pay the entire contract, even if you hadn't coached him. Louisville is not in a position, from what I've heard, to spend state tax dollars on somebody that's not really working for. Right. They're in an awkward spot. But he can't go 6 and 7 next year either.
They got a couple transfers, but nobody to really make a huge impact.
At least, that's the crazy thing. Like, sometimes, did anybody think Alec Holler was going to be the starter for you? That's why you just a walk-on could be a guy, could be a transfer. Did anybody think the running back that was the starter for Louisville, the freshman, was going to lead? Come on. But out of the running backs, it was a freshman. Out of all those guys, that's why you play the games. So
and really quick, how much success do you think UCF can have? Because we talk about a Louisville, we talk about Georgia Tech, we talk about SMU, or Cincinnati. You still got Tulane, Temple, and those teams. How successful do you think UCF maybe could be heading into that season? Maybe early on in the season, 3-0 or what?
I've got their schedule. Let me pull it up. Their schedule is kind of goofy at this point because we don't know when you play teams is so important. It's part of its potluck. But UCF's schedule, like the AAC, hasn't been announced yet. Why would it be?
We only got the home games.
Yeah, nobody cares. But as I pull this up here, if you look at the bottom of that list, if you look closely, it says date to be announced.
Yep.
South Carolina State. I will bet my bottom dollar that's the first game
Because
they're not going to want to play Louisville first. And they're sure as hell not going to want to play Georgia Tech first, because that means you'd play back-to-back Power Fives, maybe a new quarterback system, all kinds of possibilities. It could be somebody else. Maybe they switched the Florida Atlantic game around and play down there. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Right.
But it's not going to be Georgia Tech, then Louisville. Not happening.
No, you got to schedule a team like that. You got a new offensive coordinator.
So you get a game under. Yeah, I mean, Lindsey's coming in, and that's great. Gave him a chance to get his feet wet. But if you beat Louisville after beating South Carolina State, no offense to Florida Atlantic, I have zero confidence in their head coach. Zero. I know you're not a fan either. You're
terrible last year. They went terrible.
Yeah, he's not a good head coach. He will get fired at Florida Atlantic too. Mark that down.
Yeah, we know
but at the same time, Georgia Tech is a team. Boy, this stat is just unbelievably horrific. Here it is. In their final two games, Georgia Tech last year was outscored 100-0. I'm going to say that again.
By in-state teams.
Well, I mean, they played at Notre Dame, which, I mean, they're really good. But then they played Georgia didn't outscore them more than – Georgia was obviously better than Notre Dame. They only scored 40. They just split it. Some guys they could have dropped 70. Georgia Tech was horrific.
They started Go ahead.
And Jahmyr Gibbs, who was one of the best players in college football but played for Tech, I was told, this is so bad. He was going to Alabama before that season even ended. Like, there's things going on. But, like, he's like, get me out of here.
Man.
I mean,
and their quarterback's gone, too. Man.
Well, they didn't have a quarterback.
We know. They just switched that on anyway.
Yeah, he was terrible. But that coaching staff is just waiting to get fired. There's no nice way to say it.
UCF might be able
UCF cannot lose that game. There's a little prelim. We're going to do Georgia Tech probably early next week or maybe this weekend. They are not good. So that's going to be a lot harder to preview them because
they went 3-9 last year. Yeah. Oh,
but they're lucky to get the 3.
Yeah.
They are awful. So, I mean, again.
That's terrible.
Bro, I don't care if you're playing the Bears and the Broncos. You can't get outscored 100-0.
Hell no. Nah, man.
If you get by, this is why the Louisville game is so important. If you get by that game, you're going to beat Florida Atlantic unless something really bad happens.
And then you start rolling into that conference.
Then you got Georgia Tech. You go into conference 4-0.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, you change the perception of the program.
Exactly.
So I'll kind of leave it at that.
That's
it's the schedule. If the Louisville game is just I hate being one game like that. But if they win that game next year, they're going to be in a position to not only go 2-0, but they really should go 4-0. And being 4-0 and having momentum, your quarterback will have some experience then. It truly sets you up for a very successful 2022 football season.
And it's that get-back game, man. That last year's game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was weird.
You lost your dark horse Heisman quarterback. You lost starters on the offensive line, running back, wide receiver.
Corey Thornton got hurt on that first touchdown by Cunningham when he was running in the end zone. They missed him for like 3 weeks to the corner.
Yeah, you lost Ricky Barber. Man.
Yeah, that game was not very friendly to the Knights.
No. So this game will be they need to win this game to set the tone of the season, man. I'm telling you, this is going to be a big one.
It really and I'm going to put this in the article. I'm going to put this podcast in the article at Inside the Knights. But like, come on, if you are ever hoping and like wanting your kids to be motivated for a game, if the coaches have to circle this one, like you said, they should be motivated. I mean, come on. And they beat us and it was a great game, but they beat us in a really weird way with half our roster seemingly banged up and guys that are NFL players standing next to Gus. You can't score touchdowns if you're Isaiah Bowser and your legs are all banged up. You know what I mean? It's weird.
All those guys will be back too. So
that is correct.
You shouldn't have to hype them up for that game.
The only other thing, and I don't know the last time this happened. Maybe we'll look this up for the next episode. This is the kind of game, if they play game 1 well against South Carolina State, again, I'm assuming that's who it's going to be. I wonder how close they could get the bounce house to being completely full.
Ooh.
I have no idea.
I'm telling you, with the Big 12 hype, you start beating Power 5 ACC schools.
And
if those alumni want to come back, we're a young alumni school.
If alumni and all that see them beat Louisville, you also have a chance for some other games. And it's just more fun, even for guys like us up in the booth, if you have fans that are really into it and it's packed, because UCF fans are pretty batty. They get wild. It is a wild stadium for less than 50,000 people. It's crazy. Yeah. So I enjoy it.
Just for fans that's been watching games for years, man. To beat a big school like that, it feels good. You know, they don't schedule a lot of teams like that anyway. And to be in Orlando, man.
Yeah, the only other thing is it's just more of them. I mean, it'll be even louder if you beat Louisville in schools like that. So
that next home game would be crazy. Or those conference home games, that's what's going to be important.
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks apart.
Those Tulane teams and stuff, they're still going to play you difficult. They're still going to be tough games. Last year, they think they only won by like 6 points.
You know what? That's why you got to come into every game. The 85 Chicago Bears. You take somebody lightly, it doesn't.
They're going to need to win those games because I don't think heading into the Big 12, I don't think UCF's beat a ranked team since like 2018. It's a bad stat. So you got to win the game. I don't think they've been a ranked team since 2018. Since that LSU.
That's actually a great stat, and that's something that now, if you want to put that on the board as that's kind of a random one. That's something. Hell yeah!
Comment below. We'll do a show on that. UCF success against Power 5 and top 25 schools. You know, heading into the Big 12. That'll be a good episode.
Absolutely. While we wrap this up, a couple of things to Andrew's point. If you've got a question, or if there's an episode about a running back or a recruit, whatever it is, comment below, or I've got my Twitter handle up there for fan day. It's an open inbox on Twitter. Hey, do a show about the offense, whatever it is. Yeah, we'll look at it. I mean, we're probably going to cover everything. Again, first game's not till September. We got a while.
We don't know.
I'm getting ready to go bonkers on Inside the Knights, and I'll put some of it in podcasts too about individual recruits. I'm going to do Goldie Lawrence here in a little bit. Yeah. You know, make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot of these. Yep. But the Louisville one, we were just talking this morning. We thought this would be fun because once I knew Cunningham was going to come back, I'm like, this game has a different meaning now.
Definitely.
So this is the kind of stuff we'll do. But please comment, how we do. So
I love reading you guys' suggestions. So please leave a comment. Definitely like and subscribe and share the video, share the podcast to, some of your UCF friends so we can get this thing, going, get bigger. So I like this.
This is fun. So for Andrew Johnson, this is Brian. Everybody have a great day, and we will talk to you very soon.